Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday evening, October the 16th, 2022. I hope everyone is well and are safe, doing as well as possible. We made it through another week. This will be my weekly update that I'll be putting on YouTube, where we're going to look at climate items from this week and methane and sea ice, and just do a weekly wrap up. First of all, I'd like to start out by thanking the person who sent me a very kind, generous donation this week. I really appreciate it. And if people would like to support my work, there are two ways. You can either subscribe to my Subscribestar channel for $5 a month, and you get updates pretty much every day with the methane and other stuff. And the other way is I've got a PayPal link, a PayPal me link. All of that information is in the description box below, so it's totally up to you. I'm not monetized here on YouTube. I never have been, and that's why you don't see any ads on my videos either. So I'm documenting the end here, the collapse, from the viewpoint of climate stuff. And it's getting harder to be here every week, and I know it is for everybody, but I'm just going to stay focused, and that's what we need to do. Just focus on what we can do and not on what we can't do. And I pray a lot. That's all I can say. So we're going to start out on Climate Reanalyzer. And this, here's the maximum temperatures for today. And we're seeing blues, coming across the Arctic and over Greenland. But even these temperatures are warmer than they're warmer than average. And we see all these greens around. The greens are about 5 to 10 C. And we can see it's getting cooler for part of the US. And it's just been warm. And here in the Reno area, this week it's been like 80 degrees every day, and it gets cool at night, but it's just like summer basically. So I don't know, it's very strange for it to be mid-October and be like that. So here we are on the global view. We've got whites coming across Brazil, and the whites are 40 C or higher, or about 100 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. We've got whites across Africa, northern Africa here, Saudi Arabia, also in southern Africa, and Australia is getting more whites. It's heading into their spring, as we're in the fall here in the northern hemisphere. It's getting spring, moving in towards summer down in the southern hemisphere. So going to be heating up down there. Here's 2-meter temperature anomaly, and we have a little band of blue coming just across the Arctic Ocean there, and then the rest of it is in browns. And then look at Greenland. It's moving into the reds, so that's about 18°C higher than normal on the red. And you see the blue swooping down. That's colder than normal, and that's where there's a break in the jet stream. And I call them jet loops because it doesn't stream anymore. It broke last year in the summertime, and it hasn't been the same. It's just been getting worse. And we're still seeing above normal temperatures here in the west side and all the way up to Alaska. Here's the flat view, and so we've got browns over a lot of Russia, all of Europe down into Spain is in the browns. And then here's another band of browns coming down through Kazakhstan, and Iran and Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and down through Africa, and so on. Worldwide, we're up 0.5°C higher than normal, so that number is up. The northern hemisphere is 1.1°C higher than normal. That number's up. The Arctic is showing 3.4°C higher than normal. That's up from last week. Now, yesterday they were 3.6°C higher than normal in the Arctic. And the Antarctic is down 0.1°C, so that's just 0.1°C lower than normal. Southern hemisphere is minus 0.2°C. Tropics are in balance. Here's precipitation and clouds for today. The green is rain, and see how far north this rain is coming up into this Barents Sea, and it's just, I just think we're gonna have all kinds of breaking records for the winter. And see, we've got rain here in the Baffin Bay, just next to Greenland, and rain in northern Canada, rain up at Alaska, rain in the Sea of Okhotsk. Here's the flat view. And I don't report a lot on just regular weather stuff. I kind of specialize in the methane and sea ice areas, and I like to keep up with earthquakes too. Here are the jet loops. See, it's getting loopier all the time. And here's this area where it's the heat dome on in the western North America. Here's the flat view. It's just not looking good. and sea surface temperature anomaly. This is for yesterday, the 15th. We still have a lot of browns up here in the Arctic, around the coastlines, around Greenland. Here's our blob in the North Atlantic, and it's still got reds. It's got a pink spot there. The light pink is 6C higher than normal. They need to change this chart to make it go higher. Here's the flat view. We can see most of the Atlantic is in the browns. It's still brown in this western part of the Mediterranean, and it's still in these interior bodies of water. Here in the Pacific, here's our blob in the North Pacific with the eye there with reds and pink. And here around Japan we can see that's heating up again, moving into reds. And then this area just off the coast of Canada, at one point this was red as well, so there were two blobs that were red, but now this is brown. But you know, we're not out of the woods by any means. And then all these browns in the southern hemisphere, from Indonesia all the way across to South America. And then this blue, that's colder than normal, and that's in the equatorial Pacific region. Worldwide, we're up 0.4°C higher than normal. The northern hemisphere and North Pacific are both up 0.7°C. The North Atlantic is up 0.9°C. Now that's come down. This had been, I think, 1.1°C higher than normal. Southern hemisphere is up 0.2°C, and the equatorial Pacific is down 0.4°C. Now we're going to look at methane. I have 2 days worth of NOAA data to go over. We're starting on Friday the 14th here in the morning with the MET-OP-B or MET-OP-1 satellite. That's the only reading we have now is from that one satellite, and it's morning and afternoon. And we're tracking this 469 millibar level, and the mean or average was 1948 parts per billion. The high reading was kind of spiked up to 2500 parts per billion. In the afternoon, the mean was 1948 again. The high reading was 2460, and there was quite a bit of missing data coming up through Central America, Mexico, and through a lot of the US, also over here in Russia. And these are areas that have a lot of methane, so even with that, it was at 1948. And then for Saturday the 15th, back to the morning reading, the mean or average was 1950 parts per billion, so it jumped back up The high reading was 2493, and in the afternoon the mean was 1949. The high reading was 2473. And again, this missing data are over areas where we usually see some pretty high methane, like in Brazil. Here's Japan and Russia. So even with that, that mean was 1949. Here's our spreadsheet and chart. So for the 15th, that averages out to be 1949.5 parts per billion. That's an increase this week of 2 parts per billion. We can see the line going up over here. And we're 18.5 parts per billion higher than where we were a year ago, and we're 80 parts per billion higher than when I started tracking this March the 1st of 2019. 80. And I don't think we've peaked out yet. I mean, we're reaching, generally it should be peaking out just any time now between now and the end of October. So let's see what happened this week. So here we were in our show last Sunday. The data for Saturday, the 8th, we were at 1947.5, and there had been no change that week overall. And so that was Saturday. And then Sunday, it went down 0.5. Monday went down another 0.5. Tuesday, it went up 1.5. Wednesday, it went up another 1.5. Thursday, it went up another 1.5. So 3 days in a row. And Thursday, we were at 1951 for the average for that day. That's the highest we've seen so far this year. And on that day, we were 21 parts per billion higher than a year ago. And then Friday, big drop of 3 parts per billion. And then Saturday went back up 1.5, giving us an overall increase this week of 2 parts per billion. So this 1951, on that day, on the 13th, the morning reading was 1953 parts per billion, and the afternoon was 1949. So 1953 on that single reading on the mean, that's the highest we've had this year. And so that makes our average that day of 1951 the second highest so far this year was on September 19th at 1950.5. And so we've passed that, and this could be our peak for this year, is 1951. We'll just have to wait and see. It's, we're in no man's land. we're just in no man's land with everything. And you can see how it goes up and up and up every year. And then when it goes down, now the cooling season for methane, for it to go down, usually starts around the end of October and goes through the winter, and is supposed it used to go until about April, and then it would start warming up again and going on the rise. But it the cooling times have become shorter, and whenever we cool down or it goes down, it never comes back to the low from the year before. See? And then when it peaks, it's always higher than the year before. So every day we're setting records. Every day we're higher than we were a year ago. So that's not very good. I mean, that's just not very good at all. So there's that. Now we're going to look at the CAMS data. This is Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services, looking at methane. We're going to look at Saturday the 15th, Arctic view, and surface level. Here's our color ledger. And so the data is for Saturday, and forecast period is Sunday through Wednesday. And I'd like to thank the person who sent me the very nice, generous donation this week. I really appreciated that. I'm not monetized on YouTube at all. Never have been. So we can see the Scandinavian area. It kind of goes back and forth from being really filled up with methane and then going down. And so we see these waves moving out across Russia with these high readings. And along the coastline, see, here's this wave moving out in the Barents Sea, Kara Sea, and then coming across. Komsomolets is still billowing almost on a daily basis right here. Here's Koktovik, Alaska. That's they've got oil drilling there. The interior of Alaska. Now a lot of these areas are going down in methane, and so when you see a rise with it going down in some areas, especially with it going down in the southern hemisphere, and you have a rise overall, then that means you've got some areas that are really spiking up to compensate for it, to make it to go up. Now here on this north coast of Canada, this area, I'm not sure what this area is called, but we've been seeing methane coming up off this coastline. That's new. Haven't seen that before, so that's new. See that right there? It's on the edge of the Baffin Bay. Now we'll look at the North Pole view. Here we can see the northern hemisphere. And look at this area in Europe. This has been really blobby all week, and it's very high readings from Germany down to Italy and further east. Also the UK, Ireland, Spain, Portugal, France. Look at Italy. It's kind of sticking out today. Here's the Persian Gulf, and see it spilling over coastlines there. Here's India and China and Southern Asia. Also this week we've been seeing this dark wave moving out south off the coast of China, moving. Now that's very high methane when it does that. This has been going on all week. See how it's streaming over. And these waves moving out. And then here in the US, this eastern seaboard, look at that all the way down. Florida. And some days it looks a lot worse than other days. I think it has to do with the temperatures and if they've gotten precipitation, if they've gotten rain, especially, you know, that'll make the methane go up. Or flooding, that'll definitely make methane go up. Okay, now we'll go to the global view. And we're seeing this this darker blue starting to appear around this equatorial region, and see that's the next color down, the next level down, so that's 1840 parts per billion. The lighter blue is 1860, and that's still kind of the predominant color here in the southern hemisphere, but that 1840 is coming in more and more as this season, the methane season is changing. So as this goes down in the southern hemisphere, you know, for it to go up overall, like I was saying, so you've got to have rising methane quite a bit to make it go up overall when you've got it going down in one part. And then 500 HPA, that's about halfway up in the atmosphere. About the same level as what we look at on NOAA. And see, it's high down here in this, where's this, Malaysia and Indonesia, and here China, and all the way across the Arctic. See how it's redistributed there? And look, we've got high readings coming further south here in the Pacific, also in the Atlantic. Here's total column, and here's highs from China down into southern Asia. Then we've got all these reds. So there's that. Next, let's go on here. This is sulfur dioxide today. This is from CAMS. Here's a new kind of high reading off the coast of Kamchatka. Also down here in the southern Indian Ocean. This is pretty much on that Antarctic plate line. I'm thinking that's earthquake related. So plate movement. Now we saw earlier this week, we saw sulfur dioxide coming up right down here from a volcano that was erupting in the Ryukyu Islands region. It's a chain of volcanic islands just south of Japan, and it was giving off a lot of sulfur dioxide, but that looks like that's calmed down now. We've got a higher reading here off the coast of Colombia, and that could have to do with the we had a 6.3 earthquake down here today, so that could be related to that. Or it could be volcano too. So here's 500 HPA. So this is where it blasts up very fast up to the higher or middle layers of the atmosphere. And volcanic, this is Popocatépetl, and here, and look here, South Africa. Now here, this is in this, on this Antarctic ridge, and we also have it here, south of Australia. So that's these are probably earthquake related, and we're seeing plate movement. And then here off the coast of Kamchatka, that could be earthquake and or volcano. Here's the ozone hole today over the Antarctic. It's still huge, and the sun is up down there, and it's all in this danger zone. See the black line? Everything inside this black line is in the danger zone. It's below 220 Dobson units. And here's the black area. That's 100 to 125 Dobson units. Now I haven't seen it go into the white yet this year. That would be below the 100. But we got 5 layers down. It's in the danger zone here, totally covering this whole Antarctic continent. Here's the ozone over the Arctic. We can see thin areas here over Greenland, Baffin Bay, North Atlantic, also coming up in the Barents Sea, Kara Sea, Russia, and then on the west side of Canada and the US. Here's the flat view. We're seeing thicker ozone around the edges here in the Antarctic and a little bit in the Arctic. All these greens. Anything that's green or blue or purplish, or anyway, they're all that, starting with even this greenish yellow shade that's thinner than average. It's not healthy. The solid yellow, that's 300 Dobson units. That's considered a good ozone. At least 300 or more. So it's not looking good. And I just took a couple of earthquake pictures today. There are 205 earthquakes today in the last 24 hours, according to USGS. Here is one at Iceland, just off the coast of Iceland, and here off the coast of Colombia. We've got activity. It's this Cocos plate, and all of these are 4s, these dots, and so there's the 6 something and then some 5s. Here's this 4.5 off the coast of Iceland. Sangarati, I don't know how to say that. Anyway, right next to the red line. That came in today at 4:34 this afternoon, Pacific time. Okay, here's this Cocos plate. And here's Panama. And so we've got earthquakes coming down, just a straight line down. And then here's this 6.3 off the coast of Central America. This came in this morning at 5:48 this morning. There was another one there too, I think a 5, but this 6.3, that big dot, is covering it up. And Wanda Fuca plate 2.7 on the Wanda Fuca plate, and there's that. Now we'll move on to sea ice. I'm going to close that. We're going to start with our slideshow. These are images that I save from Climate Reanalyzer every day. And here's the Arctic sea ice. Sea ice and snow cover. And we can see the refreeze happening around these edges, Beaufort Sea, Chukchi Sea, and this arm reaching out up to Siberia. There's not much regrowth happening on this east side. It's mainly on the west side, and a little bit of regrowth in this archipelago region. So let's go through the slideshow. Here we were last Sunday. You can see the difference here. So we'll just go through your Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there it goes, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there it goes, and Sunday. So just in the last few days you can see the regrowth coming out quite a bit here. So there's that. And moving on. National Snow and Ice Data Center. This is sea ice concentration for yesterday. The brown line is the median, and we're seeing a few more white areas. That's where it's refreezing in between the large sections, so the leads are refreezing so it's more solid ice. And you can see where it's regrowing here in the Chukchi Sea, Beaufort Sea, also in this Northwest Passage area. Hardly any regrowth on this east side. See? And a little bit of regrowth around the coastline, Russia. And they're showing Gulf of Ob. Here's the chart for the extent. This blue line is this year. The dotted line is 2012. So it's angling up with the regrowth. So we're still way below the median, and we're not that far from 2012. I think we're going to meet up with 2012 this week. Here's the Antarctic. And we can see on this west side, this is where it's open. And this has started melting, going down. And here's the chart. And this blue line is this year. That greenish line is last year. And the gray line is the median. And so we can see it angled down. Now during the week we met up with last year, and now it's falling. So we're below last year. So it is melting. Here's Greenland for yesterday, and we can see some salmon dots up here on the northwest edge where it's melting. But for the most part, there's it stopped melting on Greenland for this season, hopefully. Here are the cumulative melt days for this year. The white areas where there's no melt, so that area is getting smaller every year. See, even with the light blue, that's 1 day or more, starting with the light blue. Here's the chart. And we're on the flat line down here. And so this chart goes from April through October, and so this, we won't be tracking this much longer for this year. So we had end of the season spiking on the melt. Look at that. Now, the Navy website I haven't been able to get onto it for the last few days. So this is the latest data I have from the U.S. Navy website. This was for the 13th, and that was Thursday, I think. Yeah. And this is Arctic sea ice thickness. And so we're seeing the regrowth. See the fringy ice coming out here in the Beaufort Sea, Chukchi Sea, East Siberian Sea, and this arm has now connected since this model, and coming back here in the Laptev Sea and starting to inch out just a tiny bit on this east side. And here's what's left of the thicker sea ice with the aqua. And here's the regrowth in these tributaries. Here's the 30-day animation. This was updated to the 19th. Oh, no, wait. to the 12th, so the forecast goes out to the 19th, which is this next Thursday. I can't believe how fast these months are just flying by. So let's go in a little more. So this west side, this west end, I'm really curious what's going to happen with this ice, if it's going to break off and just churn up in the Beaufort Gyre, or what's going to happen. Okay, here we are on the last day of the model. We're starting to see some reds come in here along the Greenland coastline next to the Lincoln Sea, and a little bit of red here next to this Canadian island, and greens. The greens are about 3 meters thick. The reds are about 4 meters thick. And it's just kind of holding. I don't see a lot of thickening happening. It may just stay kind of thin. I don't know. Just depends. So there's that. Here's the Beaufort sea ice thickness. This was from the 13th. So Thursday, you see a little dot of red there. Alaska's down here, Canada on the right. And here's the 30-day animation. And this was updated to the 13th, so this forecast goes out to the 20th. So towards the end, we're seeing more wispy ice filling in here in this Beaufort Sea. Alaska coastline is still open. Okay, here we are at the end of this model. So here's this little red line of thicker ice, 4 to about 4.25 meters thick, and see here's some thickening on the green, about 3 meters thick. And the bright aqua, that's about 2.5 meters thick, 2.25 to 2.5 meters thick. Then the blue, that's about 1 to 1.25 meters thick. So it's thickening up a tiny bit. The purple, dark purple, is about 1 meter thick, where it goes into the blue. And then it gets lighter as it's thinner there. Here's the Antarctic for the 13th. And here's our sea ice. Here's where it's really thinning down on this western edge. The majority of the thicker ice is here in the Weddell Sea and next to this western peninsula. There's also a really thin area on this southeast coastline. And here's our 30-day animation. This was updated to the 12th, so the forecast goes out to the 19th. And so this is melting. So just more coming in, whittling down on this western side. There's that. And that's all of those. Now, on NASA Worldview, this is what it looks like. And it's been black like this starting October the 10th or 11th. There's a notification up here, and it says there will be a Terra satellite data and imagery outage starting October 10th and will last 16 plus days for layers created from the MODIS, MISR series, and ASTER sensors. MOPIT will have an outage from October 3rd to October 28th. So this affects our satellite view of the sea ice, or not only the sea ice, but of the whole planet. And here's their posting, and let's see, there's the details. I don't see any updates here, but there's that. So we're not going to have any satellite imagery for a while. I know that's kind of flipping me out, but some of these layers work. So here's the sea ice concentration layer. Here's what it looks like for today. I'm going to turn on the blue marble layer just so that we can have our reference point. So here's where our sea ice is, where it's growing back, see? And now their white areas are in different places than National Snow and Ice Data Center. Wherever you see like the reds or yellows, they're still open water or it's just not put together very well. So let's go through this. Here we were last Sunday. Now see, there were a lot more reds here. Okay, let's just click through. Here's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and here we are today. Now, let's turn that layer off. And I want to see what we can see on the nighttime layer. I looked a little earlier, I wasn't able to see a whole lot, but we'll see what we can find. Over here, this is the Beaufort Sea. Here's the sea ice. Here's the edge of it. See? Coming up. And here's Canada. And here's the ice refreezing in these openings. So the dark, that's open water. And let's see what else. Can't see a lot. This layer is just here's some wispies coming back. Here's the arm coming out to Russia, the sea ice. Here's New Siberian Islands. And here's the sea ice. See the wispy stuff coming back out. There's the edge. And this is the Laptev Sea. It's still pretty open. Here's Severnaya Zemlya. Here's Komsomolets. And here's the Kara Sea. Here's Novaya Zemlya. And here's Svalbard. And here's the eastern edge of the ice. See? See the cracks? Those are the leads. Those have to refreeze in order to get it white for the concentration. See? Here's Greenland. I think. Let's get our bearings. Yeah, this is Greenland. Here's the coast. There's the ice. See? Can't really see the nearest strait. Here's the Baffin Bay. Here's a cloud. So this is the rain that we saw. So here's Greenland. See, that's open. Here's a little refreeze here on this east side. And that's about all we can see here. So I'm going to turn that one off. And here's the Antarctic. Can't see anything. Here's the sea ice. And we'll turn on our blue marble layer. There we go. Here's our iceberg, A76. He's right there. Hasn't moved much. So this is melting. See, this is the Weddell Sea. See the colors, that means it's melting. And down here on the southeast edge, see, that's melting. And here's the Ross Ice Shelf. Here's the Ross Sea. And this is in the area of the Doomsday Glacier. Thwaites is here. Pine Island. And I looked on the nighttime layer here, and I just couldn't really make out anything. See? That's what it looks like on the nighttime layer. We're seeing some open water around the coastlines. Can't really make out. Yeah, this is where the Thwaites Glacier, not the Thwaites. Yeah, Thwaites Glacier is, and can't really make anything out too much. see. It's probably because of the lagging data. So, can't see much. Down here, here's the Ross Sea and the ice shelf. We're missing definition on a lot of areas here. That's about it. So, that's all we can see. And see, there's the Earth. Here's the nighttime view for the planet. Turn that off, nothing. And that started here's the 10th. And so it went dark halfway through October 10th. So we'll just do what we can. Okay, let's look at some earthquakes here. We've got 205 still. Now we already went over the ones I had the pictures of. Here's one in Germany. This is kind of an unusual place. We don't see them here very often. 3.4 at Hechingen, Germany. This came in last night at 9:13 p.m. It's in the southwest area of Germany. Here's one in the Red Sea, 4.4, just off the coast of Yemen, that came in at 4:08 this afternoon. Here's two on the Tibetan Plateau in China. They're both 4.9s. And then 4s here in the Philippines. Here's a 4.2 at Fiji, 591 kilometers deep, so that will cause plate movement. Here's a 4.2, Hokkaido, Japan. And we've got some couple of 4s here in the Aleutian Islands. Now, up here around Juneau, Alaska, this has been going off this week. And so here is this big one, 6.3, off the coast of Central America, and here's this 4.3, and so this is that Cocos plate. That when this moves, you normally see movement on the top here, because this fault line goes all the way up. Let's look at all magnitudes for this last week. 7 days, all magnitudes. 2,065 earthquakes this week. We had some more here in the North Atlantic. Here's a big one, 5.2 Ascension Islands. And see, we've had earthquakes on this Antarctic ridge. This is where we saw the sulfur dioxide from cams, those two spots in particular. And we've got movement in the South Sandwich Islands. Just all the way around. See? It's everywhere. 6.4 near Kokopo, Papua New Guinea. That was on the 13th. It's in the ocean. And when you're in the ocean, that buffers the shaking, and so that really keeps it from doing a lot of damage. Anyway, there you see, just more and more. Look at this movement. Okay, so up here in Alaska, Juneau, this Juneau area, 18 here this week. And here was one, 4.1. Metlakatla, Alaska. That's at the top end of the Juan de Fuca plate. And then see all this movement on the Juan de Fuca plate. 4.4 was the largest. Here's the Pacific Northwest. Here's Yellowstone. So we had a lot of clusters of earthquakes too. So that's my report for this week, and I want to bring it back to a spiritual focus. I do believe we're in the end days, and we need to be prepared spiritually more than anything, because it's the end. What can I say? We're reading out of the book of Job, just continuing. Job chapter 4. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, If we essay to commune with thee, wilt thou be grieved? But who can withhold himself from speaking? Behold, thou hast instructed many, and thou hast strengthened the weak hands. Thy words have upholden him that was falling, and thou hast strengthened the feeble knees. But now it is come upon thee, and thou faintest. It toucheth thee, and thou art troubled. Is not this thy fear, thy confidence, thy hope, and the uprightness of thy ways? Remember, I pray thee, whoever perished being innocent, or where were the righteous cut off? even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. By the blast of God they perish, and by the breath of his nostrils are they consumed. By the roaring of the lion, and the voice of the fierce lion, and the teeth of the young lions are broken. The old lion perisheth for lack of prey, and the stout lion's whelps are scattered abroad. Now a thing was secretly brought to me, and mine ear received a little thereof. In thoughts from the visions of the night, when deep sleep falleth on men, fear came upon me, and trembling, which made all my bones to shake. Then a spirit passed before my face. The hair of my flesh stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern the form thereof. An image was before mine eyes. There was silence, and I heard a voice saying, Shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his Maker? Behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly. How much less them that dwell in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, which are crushed before the moth. They are destroyed from morning to evening. They perish forever, without any regarding it. Doth not their excellency which is in them go away? They die, even without wisdom. Job chapter 4. So we need wisdom, we need understanding, we need discernment, and we need the protection of God and Jesus as we go into these dark, dark days. We need to be under their wing. If you haven't given your life to Jesus Christ, I highly recommend it. I love you all, and I'm praying for you. I hope everyone has as good a week as you can. I've had kind of a rough week. I know you can hear it in my voice, but I'm hanging in there, and Lord willing, I'll be back next Sunday, and we'll do another update. So until then, God bless you. Go in peace, and I will talk to you soon. Good night.